Hey guys, welcome to this episode. And this episode is a crash course for AWS Amplify console. With AWS Amplify console, you can easily add continuous deployment to your application. So today I'm going to cover these areas. So I'm going to create a React application that uses Amplify CLI to spin up backend resources, and I'll use Amplify console to add continuous delivery. Then we'll use a different backend. I will use Serverless framework to create a backend outside Amplify CLI. And let's see how can we use Amplify console to even add continuous deployment to other backends as well. And afterwards, we'll see how to use feature branch workflow. There are multiple JIT workflows, so we are going to explore feature branch workflow. And finally, we are going to add a custom domain to our application. So we'll acquire a custom domain name and set it up with our application. So if you are developing a modern application, by modern application what I meant is a SPA or single page application where the front end is built with a JavaScript framework like Angular, React, Vue, and if you have a backend API, or RESTful API or GraphQL API, then with Amplify CLI and Amplify console, you can easily develop and deploy your applications. So that's what I'm going to cover today. Since we have got a lot to do, the phase of this video will be a little bit fast than other tutorials in this channel, but bear with me. So let's get started. I'm in my desktop, so I will create a new directory. I will cd into that, and let's create a new React application using npx. I call the app Amplify console app. Hit enter. cd into that and open it in Visual Studio Code. Now first let's add Amplify CLI to the project. First you need to install the CLI. You can do that using npm install-g amplify CLI/CLI, and you can do the configuration by amplify configure. Once you have done that, you can use amplify init to initialize an amplify project. So let me quickly show you that. So first you need to install this, right? I have already installed that. I'm not going to do that. So once the Amplify CLI is installed, you just have to type amplify configure and hit enter. So that's going to open up automatically your AWS console. And once successfully logged, go back to the console and hit enter. And once it enter, it's going to ask which region you want to set up the infrastructure. So you can just choose the region that you want. If I choose US East 1, and then it's asking for a username for the IAM user. So I will just type Manoj test because I'm not going to create this use actually. Let's redirect me back to the IAM console. So you can see it automatically filled in the username and it has checked this programmatic access. Now click next permission. So it has automatically clicked the administrator access permissions and click tags. You can add tags, click review, and then you can create the user. So once you create the user, it's going to show you the access key and secret access key. So at this time, you have to go back to your Amplify console and hit enter. So now it's asking, all right, tell me what is the access key. And when you hit again, it's asking for the secret key. Just add those access key and secret key shown here. Then you are done. The Amplify CLI is configured. After that, you can use Amplify init. I will type Amplify init. Put a name and an environment as well. So in this case, I will call this dev environment, Visual Studio Code, JavaScript, React, source, build command. You can accept all defaults. And then you have to choose the profile that you created with Amplify configure. So in my case, I created a profile for YouTube and it's going to initialize my project in AWS Cloud. Alright, so now I'm going to add React specific libraries for Amplify. So I will go to docs and JavaScript, and here I'll choose React, and I'm going to install Amplify, AWS Amplify and Amplify React. So copy this and hit enter. So that will install Amplify AWS. And I will copy the other one as well. So the React specific library. Okay, once it's installed, I will clear the screen and installed AWS Amplify React as well. And while it's installing, I will go to React and React Native section here. I will scroll down a little bit and go to the section where I will show how to import React and React Amplify. So here it is. So I will just copy this part, and actually I'll copy the whole section and then go to source and app.js file, and right here I will paste in the command. So it's basically importing Amplify and Amplify config from .aws export file, then an high order component called with authenticator from Amplify React. And in this application we are going to add authentication using Cognito user pool and also a RESTful API. And now let's wrap our application with authenticator HOC. So that will give our application the pre-baked login and sign up screen. And I will convert this to a class as well. Extends react.component and wrap the return in render function. Alright. So right now our Amplify React is installed. I will clear the screen and let's start adding backend resources. So the first, let's add auth, Amplify auth add, and let's accept default configuration for the user pool. Okay, username, and hit enter and accept all default. So auth is added, and I'm going to add hosting as well. So I'll create the screen again, Amplify hosting add. We'll host it in a S3 bucket. So I'm not going to use CloudFront in this case, just S3 with HTTP. Let's accept the defaults here as well. So let's push our changes to cloud. So if I just check Amplify status, I will see auth and hosting is now create. So I can use Amplify push to push our changes to cloud. Hit yes. Once the changes are deployed to cloud, you will see the AWS export file in source folder will populate with the information that is required for our front end. I will keep this open. So it's going to provision a user pool and S3 bucket. Okay, it's completed and you can see the content is populated in AWS export file. So I have the S3 website URL as well here. So let's go to app.js and run our application locally. npm run start. So I'll click create account, give it a password, an email address. I'll use this 10 minutes email address here, phone number, create account. So it will send an email to your email address. There we go, got it right here, and take the code. And now I can log in, sign in. So that should present to me the first page. So let's do a quick change in the front end. Here I will add hello world, take out this part as well and save it. And here we go. Now I'm going to create a GitHub repository. Go to my GitHub account and create a new repository. Let's call it Amplify Console App and create repository. Now I will add this as the remote. Stop the server, clear the screen, git status. I will add git remote add, and I'm going to add everything. Initial commit, and I'll push the changes to the master branch. Okay, now if I go and refresh it, I will have the content in my repository. Beautiful. So it's time to hook this up with Amplify Console for continuous deployment. So I will go to AWS Console and search for AWS Amplify. So you'll get to a screen like this, and you can click Get Started here and choose the GitHub repository. But I'll switch into a different region where I already have an app created, and I'll create a new app by clicking Connect App. So it's the same screen that I'll get to, and click GitHub and Next. So GitHub repository I'm going to connect right now, and then you can connect your GitHub. I have already done that. And now I can pick my GitHub repository. It is mjsloan slash amplify console app and a branch as well. Okay, here it's master branch. I'm going to connect and click next. So Amplify console has detected that it already has an Amplify backend. So now it's prompting me to choose the Amplify environment. So if you can remember, we created an environment called dev. So let's pick that one. And here you have to create a role with administration permission for Amplify console to spin up all the backend resources and do the operations, right? So if you don't have a role, just click create new role and select Amplify and next permissions. So administrate access, click tags, provide it a name, and now click review, give it a role name and create the role. I already created that, so I will exit this screen, and here in the drop down you will see the role. If it is not this shown, just click this refresh button, it's going to show up here. So in my case it's already here, so I picked that. And now we have this amplify YAML file. So this is the place we can define the commands to build the backend and the front end. You can click edit here to edit this configuration file. Up top there's the version, and we have a section for the backend and for the front end. So in the backend, Amplify uses this helper function amplify push to push all the backend resources. So it works hand in hand with Amplify CLI. And if you have a different backend, which you are going to demonstrate next, you can add those scripts here as well. And there are multiple phases in the build. You can have pre-build phase, post-build phase. So we'll explore that in a little bit later. And after the backend is pushed, it's about deploying the front end. So it has detected I have a React backend, and it has set up the base directory as build, and it's going to run yarn run build and all that. So what happens is it first build the backend, and if it is successful, it'll build the front end. And once the front end artifacts are inside this build folder, it will use those artifacts to deploy to S3 bucket and thereby host the web application. So let's see that in action. I will click save. I'm not going to change anything in that file. Click next and click save and deploy. So these are the phases that it will go through. First, provision the resources, basically the build server. Then it will move into the build phase, which will clone the repository and build the backend. Right, you can see it has built the backend. So backend is also completed, and then it will build the front end. So as you have already noticed, it's running the commands that we have specified in the amplify.yaml file. You can see yarn install here in the front end, and in the back end amplify push dash dash simple. So the build phase is now complete, and the deploy phase is also complete. And as you can see, there's this particular domain reserved for us. So that's a subdomain for amplifyapps.com. So you can use this URL to view your website. And as the final step, it will do a verification. So basically, it will run your application over different devices. See Google Pixel, iPad, etc. So that will make sure your UIs are responsive. Looks good here. So now I can view the website by clicking onto the domain name. If I click on that, it's going to open up that URL. As you can see, I can log in with the previous username and password. And there you go, we have our application hosted. So let's do a small change. So I will go here, hello world changed. So I will add that change, git add. I will commit that change as well, change to small text, and I will push it to origin and to the master branch. So as soon as this push is completed, if I go to Amplify console, it's going to provision a new build automatically for us. As you can see, the new build has triggered. Because Amplify console, as we link with GitHub, there's the GitHub hook, webhook happens. So with that, it triggers this build. If I click on that, so it's going to run through these steps: provision, build, deploy, and verify. So let's wait until it's completed. Okay, it's deployed, now it's verifying. Now I'll go to the website and hit refresh. There we have it. Our changes are now visible in our live application. So now we have continuous deployment set up for our application. So each time we push a change to our master branch, there will be a build and the change will immediately be visible in our live site. Alright, so now let's add a REST API to our application. I will use Amplify CLI to do that. So I'm in my application, I will add Amplify API add. So it's going to prompt me either it's a GraphQL or REST API. I will choose REST and give it a friendly name. We'll type to-dos and path items. Create a new Lambda function, to-do Lambda, and for the function template, I'll choose Express template, Serverless Express function. Do you want to create resource? Yes. So I'm going to add auth and hit enter. Let's add create, read, update, and delete all that. Hit enter. You want to edit the function? Yes. And it's going to open that function up. As you can see, under backend, it's going to create a function folder. This is our to-do Lambda, and this is the Lambda code. And here's the /item get path, right? So instead of returning get call succeeded, I'm going to return a list of to-dos. Right here, I will hard code these to-dos. So it's a const to-dos. So I have 3 items, eat, sleep, and code. And I will take that constant and return it instead of this string. Alright, so I'll go back to my console and I will hit continue. Do I want to restrict access? Not at this moment. I don't want to add a new path. Now I will type amplify push. So that will create the function and the API on AWS. So I hit yes. Once the resources are created, it's going to update the AWS export.js file. So we'll open this file. Alright, so it's completed and it is populated the extra information in AWS export file. For example, the cloud logic. And this is our API name. And in order to use this, we have to import API from AWS Amplify. So I'll go to app.js, not this one, but capital app.js. And here I'm going to import API from AWS Amplify. You can go to documentation and into API section right here. And under that, you can check using REST. If you scroll down a little bit, you should see how to use get API call. So I'll copy this and I'm going to add a button right here. So let's change this back to hello world. I will add a button. Let's call it call amplify REST API. On click, let's add a handler function called this dot call amplify API. Let's add the handler function right here. I'll copy the get call again and paste it here. So for params, we are not passing any params. And the API name is, you can go to AWS export and use this API name. It's to-dos. Paste it here. And the path is /items. Alright. So let's see if this all works. I will locally run this. npm run start. Here I have the button. Open it. And here I have the button. I'll open an inspect element. I will take the network tab open. I'm going to click call REST API. Let's see if that works. Yes, I got some contents items and under success I got my to-dos. So that works. And now let's use a different framework. So in this case I'm going to use Serverless framework to add another API endpoint. So I will take my terminal up, clear the screen, and I will go to serverless.com. So this is Serverless framework website and click open source, and here I'll choose Amazon Web Service Provider. So before that I have to install serverless globally. So I will just select this statement, paste it here, npm install serverless-g, and hit enter. So it's going to install serverless library globally. Okay, it's completed. Now I go back to open source and Amazon Web Services, and I'm going to create a Node.js service. Copy this and come back here, paste it. I will change the directory name to my backend and hit enter. So it's going to create a folder called my backend underneath Amplify folder. So inside that I have handler.js file and serverless.yml file. Take out all these comments. So let's change the Lambda function name to todos. I'll call handler.getTodos. So I'll go to handler function. I'll rename this hello to getTodos. And instead of returning this object, I will return my todos constant, which is a hard-coded value, const todos. So I'm going to change the name. This is from, I know this doesn't make sense, but I just want to know this information is coming from our serverless function. So save that. I'll go to serverless YML file. I'm going to add events. So I'll add a HTTP event, so that's going to provision an API gateway for us. So it has a path called todos, so that's a get method. Now I'll enable cross for the API. So let's save that. I will take the terminal, clear the screen, cd into my backend folder. So I have the serverless YAML and handler.js. I will type SLS deploy or serverless deploy. So it's packaging the service, creating the stacks. So let's give it a second. Okay, SLS deploy is now complete. Now I can access my endpoint by clicking here. Let's click this one. There we go. I got my to-dos. Oh, these are not to-dos, but anyway, some items from backend. Okay, now let's add this endpoint to our application as well, or rather call this endpoint. I'll go to source app.js file and I'm going to import Axios. So Axios from Axios. I have to add Axios as well. And let's create the second button. So I will add a HR to do a separation between these two buttons. Add another button called serverless endpoint. Now essentially both these are serverless endpoints, but I just want to differentiate between the endpoint that we deployed from Amplify and the other one deployed from serverless framework. So here let's say call SLS API. So I will add that handler function here. Let's say axios.get. The endpoint is this one, and .then if it is successful will console log the output, if not the error. Okay, so we use axios get to call out to that endpoint, and let's save this one. So let's run the application again. I will go back one directory up and run npm run start. So it's going to start the React. Okay, so now I have two buttons. If I click call serverless endpoint, so it's going to call out to the endpoint and it's going to return the data from the API gateway. This is from serverless. And if I call out to the other endpoint, it's going to return me the data as well. So eat sleep call. So both the endpoints are now properly working. So let's commit these changes and push to our master branch. So I'll stop this git status. Okay, git add -a commit -m added to endpoints from Amplify and serverless. Okay, I will push it origin master. Now if I go to Amplify console, so there's the new build that has been triggered. So I'm going to cancel this build because I right now need to change the build settings. Because right now, if I edit my build spec right here, so right now it's only pushing the changes for the backend resources that is added using Amplify CLI. But right now I'm using serverless as well, serverless framework. So let's add serverless commands here as well. So inside the backend section, I will add another build phase for pre-build. So this runs before the build commands. So I will add commands. So as the pre-build command, I want to install serverless framework, right? So I can add npm install serverless-g or yarn add global. So I'll add npm install serverless-g here anyways. During the build, once Amplify push the backend changes that is spin up through the Amplify CLI, I want to add another line. So in this line, I want to type serverless deploy as well. So it will make sure it's going to deploy all the serverless resources in AWS Cloud. But there's a small problem because our serverless YML file is in the my backend directory. So we need to navigate to that directory. So I'll add another step right here, cd into my backend. Let's check that. There we go. I have to cd into here and then go to serverless YML. And now before doing the yarn install, I have to navigate back one directory up again, cd double dot, and then yarn install, and it will run smoothly, I believe. So let's save the changes. Okay, and let's go to AWS console, click master, and I'll click redeploy this version again. The new build has been triggered. I'll click this one, so it's going to provision. And now at the build stage, so it's cloning the repository. So after that, it's going to start the backend deployment. And so it's using Amplify push right here because our first command is Amplify push. Once done, that's going to cd into our my backend folder. So still it hasn't started. Oops, there's a build failed. Okay, I got an error. I will go to build settings and click edit. Well, there's a typo here. There's 3 M's for commands. And also I will change this npm install-g serverless to yarn global add serverless to use yarn and the speed. So I will save that. Now we'll go into the AWS Amplify console and click master and do a redeploy. There's this button called redeploy. I just already pressed that. So it's going to build the backend correctly. And as you can see, it just go into the cd my backend after doing the Amplify push, and then it starts SLS deploy. So it's going to package everything and return me the endpoint here. So the backend is correctly built. I'll go to the front end. So front end is also being built right now. Okay, so it's all completed. So I'll go to the website endpoint and do a refresh. There we go. I have these 2 buttons. So go to inspect, network tab, click call amplify, and I got my to-dos from the amplify endpoint. And now I will click call serverless endpoint. See, I got the information from the serverless endpoint. This is from serverless. Great. So both endpoints are now live on our website. So let's do some changes to these endpoints. I'll go to my backend folder and handler.js, and I will add another new to do id point 4. Let's call it real to do. And also I will go to amplify backend function app.js, and here as well I will add a new to do. Okay, so I will commit the changes, git add and git commit -m added new to dos, and I will push the changes to master. So the changes are now pushed. So if I go to amplify, you can see it's already started building a new build. So let me click on view the new build. So start the provisioning build and deploy verify process already. So let's see once this is completed if the new to-dos and all the items are available. The deploy is complete. So let's go to our React app again and do a refresh. I will click on Amplify REST API. Let's check the previews. Well, I have the new to-do. So let's test the serverless endpoint as well. And I have the new real to-do as well. So as you can see, our deployment pipeline has updated both our backends. Okay, so now let's see how to use feature branch flow. So when you're working with a team, it is essential to have multiple environments of your application so that your team can seamlessly develop. So at the moment, if I just check my branches, I have only master branch. So I will add a new branch. Let's call it dev. So now I have dev and master branch both. While I'm in the master branch, I will add an amplify environment as well. So at the moment, we have only a dev environment in Amplify. Well, I should have named my environment differently when I was first adding it, but let's do like this. I will add another Amplify environment, and this time let's call it prod. We want to use an existing? No. Let's call it prod environment, right? Use an AWS profile, and now I type amplify push to push the changes. Yes. Alright, now that the backend resources are provisioned, I'm going to add and commit all the configuration changes to my master branch. Git commit -m added dev branch and new amplify environment. Okay, and I will push the changes, and now I will check out to my dev environment, and I will push this branch to my repository as well. Okay, so it has created a new branch in my remote repository. So let's see, now a build has been triggered. I just don't want to happen this build, so I will cancel that, right? And this is my application, Amplify console application, but I have like connected this master, the dev environment from Amplify, which I would have like renamed it differently when I was creating that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this application. You might not want to do that. Now this console app is something I created sometimes back. So let's create a new application. I choose GitHub, and for the repository I will select Amplify console app, the app I'm working on. Now I get to choose these two branches. So first I will pick master branch and click next. So let's link our master Git branch with our Amplify prod environment. Would you like Amplify to deploy this? Yes, the environment should be prod. So I just added the pre-built command, adding serverless, and then running serverless in the my backend folder, the previous settings that we have added. I'm going to save this one, and guys, we can actually download this configuration file, this amplify.yaml file, and actually add it to the root of our application. So here, so this is the root of my application. I can open this file and just copy the content, get back to my editor and create a new file, and let's call it amplify.yml and paste this in. So now Amplify will use this amplify.yml other than the content from that inline editor. So this is good because we can use Git to do the version control as well. So that's another quick side note. Okay, so our environment is now looks good. So we are connecting the prod environment or the Amplify prod to the master branch. I'll pick the service role as well, and I will click next and save and deploy. Okay, so while it's deploying, I will connect another branch. So I will click connect branch here. So we have already connected our prod branch. So now it only shows the dev branch. So let's select that. And for the environment, now it has taken the prod environment out of the list. Only the dev is remaining. Now remember, this is the JIT branch and this is the Amplify environment. The next button seems to be disabled. So maybe we have to wait until the first environment is built. Let's see what's the problem here. Okay, I tried it again and now it seems to be enabled. So I will click next and I will click save and deploy. So the dev environment is also shown. Good. And can you see the difference between the URL? So this is prefixed with or the subdomain with master dot whatever the random character and then amplify app.com, and this is the subdomain start with dev as well. So the master branch has finished deploying, so I can go and see the URL. So you can see it's master dot then amplify.com. Let me log in, and user does not exist. Let me just double check. Okay, somehow the user has been deleted. I have to check why. Just let me create my user again. Don't send, no phone number, manoj@test.com. So I can just say mark this email as verified and click create user. So the user has been created. So I can go back here with the Manoj test1234 and click sign in. Okay, change password. Okay, now I got into the home page. Now if you just wonder where I added the user, so it's basically I went into the Cognito user pool, and you can just go to services and type Cognito, and here go to Cognito and then select your user pool. Inside that you go to user and groups and create a user, or else you can simply come back and sign out and create an account from the standard way, right? I just use a shortcut. Okay, let's see if our dev environment is ready. So dev is ready as well. So if I go to dev environment, now I can't use the same user because this is pointing to a different environment, right? So let's create a user this time using the standard account creation. Click here and type Manoj, whatever the email address, and I'll use 10 minutes email. Copy that, get here, paste that in and create account. I created the user and I just skip that part. Here we go. I just got logged into the environment as well. Alright, so now we have our two branches all set up. Now say that we need to add a new feature. So in that case, if you are using feature branch flow, so we are going to create a new branch for that feature. So let's say I'm going to delete these two buttons, right? So I will create a branch name. Let's call it removed buttons, right? So the new remove button branch has been created. So I will just check out to that branch, remove buttons. I'm in remove button branch right now, and I will just take these two out. I will edit the message as well, removed buttons. So what I will do is I will check out the Amplify dev environment. So Amplify env checkout dev. So this new branch, the new JIT branch, will be configured with Amplified dev environment. So after that, I will push these changes, and let's create a new branch with the same name in the remote as well. Before that, I have to add the changes, remove two buttons, and I will push the new branch to the origin. What did we call? Remove buttons. Okay, so the new branch has been added. So let me recap what we have done again. So we create a new JIT branch, right? And then we check out to that particular new branch. So this is what we have done. So right now we are in the Git branch, remove buttons, and then we check out to the Amplify environment dev as well. So we are using the same infrastructure that we provisioned for the dev Amplify environment, right? So then we push the changes. So if I go to my GitHub, you should see the new branch has been pushed right here. So I will go to Amplify console and I'm going to connect it with another branch. So this time it has picked my remove button branch, and I'll select the dev environment because I use this dev environment, and then I will click next and I'll click save and deploy. Wait for a while. So it's going to start building it. And can you see this time the URL starts with remove buttons. Now imagine that I'm a developer in my team. So I have a team of 5 people and my task is to remove this button. So what I will do is I will create a new GitHub branch or feature branch called remove button, just like I have done, and check out the Amplify environment dev, and then I will push my changes, right? So in the Amplify console, I've created a new application connected to this particular branch. Then I can actually use this URL to view only my changes. None of these other environments are affected, dev or master, but only the remove button application. And it has this own URL, so you can share it with your team members if they all agreed and they say, okay, let's merge it to the dev. So what you can do is you can easily merge your remove buttons Git branch with your dev branch and then push the changes to your Git repository. So as soon as the Git repository receives the changes, so it will notice Amplify console will be noticed via the webhook. So the dev environment will start building that. So your changes will be then available in the dev environment. And you can remove this application if you want. So I'll show you that exact process. And you can take that to the next level as well. So everyone will have their own feature branch, and once they are validated and verified within the team or with your customer, you can like merge everything to the dev branch. And then once all the tests, integration, unit, UI test and everything is being passed, and you got the approval from the customer, then you can send another pull request from dev branch in the Git to the master branch, and then review that PR and merge it. So as soon as that's merged, GitHub will notify the Amplify console, hey Amplify, build the master app now. So this will be your production application. So the production will be updated. So that is the whole flow. So I hope that's clear. So let's say now the build deploy stage is now complete. I will click on to this. So it's remove dash buttons. So I can use my dev environment credentials, login. There you go. Here are my changes. The buttons are removed, the new message is added. But if I go to my dev environment, you can see the URL here and sign in. So dev environment still unaffected, and my production environment, let me do a refresh, is still unaffected. So if I want to push my changes in the feature branch to the dev, what should I do? I will type git branch here. So I will now check out to dev branch, and I'm going to merge my remove underscore buttons branch. So it's now merged, and I will push my changes to git push origin dev. So, so, so as soon as it's pushed, a new build will be triggered right here. You can see in the dev environment. Then the changes will be replicated to that environment. Okay, the dev environment is now deployed. Let me go to my dev environment and refresh it. The changes should be propagated to here. There we go. So it's now updated, but the master branch is still not updated. So you can now send another pull request from dev to master. So then the master branch will also be updated. Okay, now I'm moving on to the last part of this crash course. So that is adding a custom domain. So right now, if we look at our application, these URLs, dev master, remove buttons, right? And all these URLs are based on this amplifyapp.com. And I have this ugly string at the middle as well. So probably you don't want to push your production application to this kind of an URL, but you want to have a custom URL. So in that case, you can attach a custom domain to your application. So if you go to Amplify console right here, you should see there's this section called domain management. Click on domain management and it will show the existing domains or the URLs with the corresponding branch. So this is it. What I can do is I can simply click add domain. Then it will ask you to type in the domain name. So at this point, if you own a domain, you can type it right here and start configuring it. So at the moment I don't have a domain. So let's go to a domain provider. You can either go to GoDaddy or you can buy a domain from Amazon Route 53 itself, or you can use Namecheap or any other domain provider. So in my case, I'm going to go for a free domain because this is a tutorial. Free domains. Just type it in and I find this website interesting .tk. Go there and I will log in. You can log in with your social provider. So I will log in with my Gmail account. And once you are logged in, you can click services and click register a new domain. And you can type any domain name in your mind and see if that's available. So in my case, I will just type my name, Manoj Fernando. And I have this TK domain available right now. So I will click get it now. And it's checking. Okay, it's selected. Click checkout and click continue. And finally complete order after agreeing. Click here to get to your client area. And you can click services again, my domains. So this is the newly bought one. I earlier bought this one and I attached to a previous application, which I will show you in a bit. And the new domain, click manage domain icon here or the button here. And the section called manage free nom DNS. So this is the place that you are going to manage your DNS settings or DNS records rather. And here you can select management tools and click name servers. So right now the domain that I just purchased uses the name servers from these guys. So the domain resolution will be handled by these guys. So this is another option. So if the domain resolution happening from a third-party provider, you have to configure CNAME record that is provided to you from the Amplify console and add that CNAME record in your provider. And that record will be used by Amplify console to verify if this domain is actually owned by you. So I'll show you, like if I go to Amplify here, but in my case I want to do all the DNS resolution from AWS itself. So I will use Route 53 for that matter. So in that case I will click services here, Route 53, and I'll open in a new tab. And once it's opened, I will click hosted zones. So this is my .ml domain, but I have just bought another domain, manojfernando.tk. So I will create that domain as well. So the DK domain has been created, and there's this name server record. So just click on this type, and you will see the name servers, AWS name servers rather. So what you want to do is, if your domain is purchased from a third-party provider, you have to copy these name servers into their name server boxes or replace in their name servers. So I'm going to check this one, use custom name servers, and I will paste each one of these here. First one, and this is the second one, and this is the third one. So once this is done, all the requests coming onto this domain will be sent to our AWS DNS name servers. So I will click change name servers. Okay, looks all good. Now what I'll go is I'll go back to my Amplify console and I will type manojfernando.tk, the domain name that I just bought, and I click configure domain. So it says, okay, do you want to use the master or the root domain or the domain apex? So you can use that. So in my case, I will exclude it. Instead, I will map www.manojtk.com to my master, and I will add another dev environment. So that is pointing to the dev environment. And you might not want to create another one for the feature branch because those are like temporary branches. So these two are the main branches in my case. So the situation may be changed in your cases as well. So accordingly, you have to choose the domain names and the corresponding branches. Okay, in this case, this looks all good to me, and I click save. Okay, then it will go through a process to configuring SSL. So it's first create SSL certificate using ACM or Amazon Certificate Manager, and this is the DNS record I just talked to you about, right? So this is this verification DNS record. So if you are using Route 53, it's going to create it automatically in the Route 53 console. Now I can see there's only 2 records at the moment. If I do a refresh, I should see another record. There we go. The new record is here, and also I can see those two environments like dev.manojfernando.tk and www. is pointing to the CloudFront distributions alias names. Now behind the scene, Amplify console, when doing the web hosting, it will create a CloudFront distribution, and this is the domain name of that CloudFront distribution. So it is basically proxying any request coming to dev.environment, dev.manojfernando.tk to the CloudFront. So from the CloudFront, it will use the behaviors or the behavior path matching to map to the corresponding S3 bucket and corresponding resources. Yeah, this all looks good. And you can see the configuration part is also done. Now there's this SSL verification, and afterwards it will activate your domain. So this is going to be taking some time. So it says if it takes longer than 8 hours, contact Amplify. If not, it will resolve within an hour or so. So I'm not going to wait. I will show you already configured application. So that's why I have this old application, AWS Amplify console demo application here right now. And I have configured new domain or the manojfernando.ml domain. Earlier I bought TK, this is ML. As soon as the wizard is complete, it will automatically be activated to your domain. You don't have to do anything, and then you just have to use this URL and directly view your website. So that's simple. Okay guys, so this is what I want to show you in this crash course. Obviously there are a lot of parts that we didn't cover. For example, we didn't cover how to use environment variables, how to use access control, but we covered some basics at this crash course. I hope this has been valuable to you. So if you like this type of videos, put a like and subscribe to my channel and let me know what you think about it. And thank you very much for your time, and I'll see you in another video. Thanks.